I'm wearing the scarlet letter after the week that I just had last week, being a woman up here and being demonized for my vote and for my voice. I'm here to let the rest of the world know and the country know I'm on the side of the people. I'm not on the side of the establishment, and I'm going to do the right thing every single time, no matter the consequences, because I don't answer to anybody in D.C. I don't answer to anyone in Washington. I only answer to the people.
So you were in that room. You heard the candidates. The vote is expected to take place tomorrow. How are you going to vote?
I'm going to vote for Kevin McCarthy.
Didn't Kevin McCarthy just say that he did not want even his supporters, yourself included, to nominate him?
No, I'm not. No, I don't think he's going to be nominated. I'm still going to vote for him, though. I mean, I can always write in his name, and I expect that other members of Congress will do the same. But I have stated very publicly that this wasn't the right thing to do. And after listening to both candidates, their plan for the future includes continuing resolutions, which is exactly what Kevin McCarthy was going to do. So supposedly, Kevin McCarthy was removed for about the same plan that both Jim Jordan and Steve Scalise, have laid out. Look.
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So, man, we are living right back in the same old Speaker of the House freaking Groundhog Day. But now I guess we're sort of making progress. It just proves, I guess, that progress doesn't always feel like progress. So now it seems that the GOP, they've decided who it will nominate to be the next Speaker of the House. And now, obviously, we all know that this is only possible because Kevin McCarthy was fired. He was fired, forced out, because he made a ridiculous deal, honestly, to be when he became Speaker of the House. And that involved the ability for any Republican at any time, for any reason, to call a vote to end his speakership. And of course, after 9 months of accomplishing basically nothing, doing very, very little except for everything that the Democrats asked him to do, well, that day came. It was always going to come, and we probably always knew who was going to bring it. And it's crazy, with so much death and destruction and insanity in the world. That was only a week ago, guys. Can you believe that? So anyway, Republicans just had a private meeting yesterday where they took a straw vote to decide who they should get behind to be the next speaker. And it was between Jim Jordan, who had the endorsement of President Donald Trump, and also the Freedom Caucus. And if I'm being honest, me, okay? But, he's absolutely who I would have liked to have seen. It was between him and Steve Scalise, who really is also a very strong conservative. Wouldn't be my pick. I can't tell you why exactly, but I don't think he's as strong as Jim Jordan. But because he wouldn't be my pick, of course, the Republicans found a way to actually pick him. And apparently the vote came out 99 to 113. And here's what Steve Scalise had to say about getting nominated. And I want to show that, and then we'll get into some of the folks, in the 99 that are less than happy. Before we do, guys, thanks so much to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. We're building an awesome community. And if you haven't already, please help our channel continue to grow. Like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share. That really, really means a lot. Take a look at this.
First, I want to thank my House Republican colleagues for just designating me as the Speaker. Obviously, we still have work to do. We're going to have to go upstairs on the House floor and resolve this and then get the House opened again. We have a lot of work to do, not just in the House for the people of this country, but we see how dangerous of a world it is and how things can change so quickly. We need to make sure we're sending a message to people all throughout the world that the House is open and doing the people's business, making sure that we're unequivocally standing in our first resolution that we pass under Speaker Steve Scalise will be to make it clear that we stand with Israel. The McCall-Meeks resolution will be our first order of business. But obviously there's a lot more work to do. The conversations we've been having with my colleagues over the last few days leading up to this show that there's a resolve, that we need to get back to work. There's a lot of business to take care of. Families are struggling across this country. We passed a lot of legislation to help families get back on track, to address our border crisis, to get our economy moving again, to address the spending in Washington that's driving inflation, high energy costs. All of those bills that we've passed and that we're going to continue to pass that are sitting over in the Senate need to be taken up. We've passed over 70% of the bills to fund the government, dealing with appropriations and setting the priorities of this nation's spending, and the Senate has taken up zero. The Senate has to start doing their work. And by the way, in that legislation, including the State and Foreign Ops Bill, the Defense Appropriations Bill, includes funding for Israel, things like Iron Dome, precision-guided missiles, things that could be used today to help them in this war.
So here's the thing, man. I'm pretty much out. I'm not all that impressed with what I just saw right there. Obviously, making a push to make the Senate work on bills, that's great. Conservative bills that have already been passed through the House and will pass the House, that is awesome. I'm not real sure how they intend to do that, but, a lot of these things that he's talking about, a lot of the priorities he's talking about, especially funding for other countries, I'm not real excited about that. Let me know in the comments if you are. Maybe I'm being short-sighted, maybe I'm being naive, but he does, I guess, have more of a history of supporting the protection of other countries' borders than our own.
President Zelensky just gave an incredibly powerful address to Congress, and I think people got to see once again what we've been seeing for weeks, and that is just why President Zelensky is inspiring the people of Ukraine and people all around the world who are rallying behind these strong, incredibly tough people during a brutally difficult invasion by Putin. When President Zelensky showed that video, you really got to see firsthand the sheer brutality of what Putin is doing inside Ukraine. It was very difficult to watch. It was heartbreaking, but it shows you that there's nothing less than genocide going on in Ukraine by Putin and his army. And so as Zelensky made a plea to the United States, to President Biden, he's continued to reiterate that the people of Ukraine just want more tools to be able to defend their country, especially right now to be able to control the sky. And that's why getting these MiGs in immediately is so critical. The longer President Biden waits trying to figure out excuses to not offend Putin, it's costing lives in Ukraine. He's got to make that happen. It's a plea Zelensky continued to make, as well as a plea for other things that I think the American people want to do to give them the tools that they need to.
So guys, can anyone tell me what's different here from Kevin McCarthy? Why we're going through all this trouble? I think we're headed for another long, drawn-out speaker standoff that, of course, the liberal media is just going to turn around and frame it like some sort of Republican civil war, which, of course, it is not. But that's where this feels like it's headed. I can promise you, the Freedom Caucus, they're not going to go for this. Why did they even bother having a private vote? Honestly, that's what I'm wondering. Why did they have this private vote? Why did they do this if they're not all going to get behind the guy? Because we already have some of the more conservative Republicans vowing to still vote for Jim Jordan. Marjorie Taylor Greene says that she doesn't want to see a Scalise speakership, basically for many reasons, but one being because the guy's got cancer, apparently, which is news to me. And she thinks he should focus on beating the cancer. I would absolutely agree with that. That's some pretty damn scary stuff. But she's not the only one. Basically, the true conservatives are out. Boebert, Green, Miller, Massey, Luna, Gimenez, Cloud, and two of my very, very favorite, Nels and Roy. I would imagine that Matt Gaetz is on that list as well. They need, I think, 217 votes. And right now, I don't think they have those votes. But anyway, let's take a look at what some of the reactions to the folks that are vowing to not want a speakership with Scalise.
Well, I think Jim Jordan is the fighter we need to be Speaker of the House right now. Our country's in crisis with our border situation becoming such a grave national security crisis. Jim Jordan, I think, is the guy for the job. There's a lot of concerns right now. Some intel reports saying that we could even have a terrorist attack here at home. And we've already witnessed one in Israel right now, and that's certainly a situation that we're all praying for as we stand with Israel. But we're also, here we are still engaged in Ukraine. This seems to be another foreign war that we're funding their government with no end in sight. While the American people are suffering under crippling inflation and possibly a looming recession with our economy. The Speaker of the House is the hardest job in Congress, one of the hardest jobs in the country, and it's extremely demanding. And it's very personal to me, and I say this with the most compassion My father died in April of 2021 with cancer, and I like Steve Scalise, and I like him so much that I want to see him be able to put all of his time and energy into defeating cancer, and I say that with just hoping the best for him.
We'll see at 3 p.m. when I go to the floor.
So it's all about what gets us to single subject spending bills. That's what I'm for. I don't believe we should govern by continuing resolution, and the history that we've seen is that continuing resolutions often beget other continuing resolutions. What Mr. Jordan has proposed, he believes will get us to those single subject spending bills. I think Jim Jordan wants to govern by single subject spending bills. I don't believe he wants to govern by continuing resolution, but how that'll fit together tactically will weigh heavily on my decision.
But you're open. What did say about that, though? Approaching the November 17th.
Yeah, I mean, I heard Leader Scalise really talk about the need to put pressure on the Senate to take up our bills. Steve Scalise has encyclopedic knowledge of what is in the legislation we've passed to fund more than 70% of the government, and he laid out both in this forum and in a meeting earlier today with the Florida delegation how he would put pressure on the Senate to take up those bills. Specifically, Mr. Scalise said that he'd put pressure on them to take up our Department of State and Foreign Operations bill because that's where we've got a lot of money for the Iron Dome. And we think that, the Senate should be financially supporting that Iron Dome, and the best way to do that is to take up our state and foreign ops bill.
Jordan, will you endorse Steve Scalise if he wins the votes today?
I'll support anyone who can get 217 votes. We got to come together to do so.
So yeah, there's that. Another big mess, man. Here's one silver lining. Apparently they're not going to hold a vote until they actually know that someone can get to 217 votes, which is awesome. Much less of a circus. So that's smart. That's an improvement. And man, that might be the only improvement because I'll be honest, I'm not really liking what I'm hearing as far as priorities. No one's really talking about anything different than we've been doing for years and years and years, which makes you wonder, what was the point in going through all this trouble to embarrass McCarthy and disrupt the system like this if we're really not going to get anything out of it? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. One thing is for sure, whatever they're going to do, they need to get on the stick and do it now. They need to make it happen. They need to get behind somebody. But anyway, I'm curious to know your thoughts, guys. Who's your pick? And what do you think the priorities should be set as? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget, like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.